Those are my tools. And that's my wood. Half a pallet. So the first thing to do is to break the pallet up. And breaking pallets up is easier said than done, because the nails that hold them together are ribbed. And they're also bent over on the backs, which is why I'm using a screwdriver here to unbend them before I try and prise the wood apart. Because if you don't unbend them first, you'll end up just splitting the wood. So I keep the nails. I either use them again, or they just get added to the scrap metal pile. So you get some good, decent, usable wood off pallets. So I bent those nails straight off the backs, and now I can just prise them straight out. And it's important I take the nails out of all the wood, because what isn't getting used for construction or making the bow drill goes on the fire, and I don't want loads of nails in the fire. It just blocks the grate up. Those are the two sections, two lats, that I made the complete bow drill set out of. And we're starting off with the bow itself. This is at 5 times speed, and although those lats aren't very wide, there's enough on them to sort of take a belly off, if you like, so it gives you a bow that acts the same as if it had a bend in it. You can use a straight piece of wood, but it is easier to use one with a slight bend in it. So luckily the grain is fairly straight, and I can just hammer bits out of the belly of the lat. Now we're moving on to the spindle. So this is where I really do want the wood to be straight grained, so I can split a spindle section off. It's not perfectly straight, but straight enough. So now we just take the corners off with the knife. And the knife I'm using here is my Grasshopper Outdoors knife, made for me by Manticore Knives, and I will mention him any opportunity I get, because he is a friend, and I have purchased, and he has given me a few decent knives over the years. Just checking it's straight. You've got two ends to the spindle, the sharp end that goes into the bearing block, and the blunt end that does all the work to form the coals on the hearthboard end. And we'll just tidy this bow while we're at it. Saving all these curls, of course, to start the fire with, and I did think that these curls would have acted as my bird's nest, but on my first attempt they didn't, so I had to add to the bird's nest. You'll see as we go on. We're now making the hearthboard. That divot in it is where the nails have been in, so I decided not to cut it there. I'm just lining up the spindle to see where I want to put the divot for the start. So you just make a bit of a divot, and it's not that easy because this wood is quite stringy. It's really good for friction bow drill material, but it's not very good for carving, especially across the grain. So you're just making a divot that the spindle can sit in, and then I can burn it in. Just give it a bit of a test there. See, it's not going to slip out. And I have not yet mastered hand drill. That's something I've got to practice on. So now we need the top bearing, or the bearing block. That's just to support the spindle. I could have shaped it a little bit better to hold it a little bit more comfortably in my hand. Ideally, if you're building a bow drill set, you want the top bearing to be some harder wood, because you don't want the spindle burning into the bearing block. So ordinarily I'd make it out of something like oak or hawthorn, or even a stone or a piece of bone. I'm using the nails to secure the cord in the bow drill, in the bow. I made a bit of a mess of it. It went through, it came out the side, but it doesn't matter. Other than the fact you might get your hand caught on it. Just trying to get an idea of the tension and whether I need to adjust it, how easy I can adjust it. So now we're just going in for the burning. So there's a bit of finishing yet to do on the hearth block, but you need to just burn it in a bit first before you cut the notch in it. So this isn't going for any ember, but any ember material I'll save, any that I generate. My technique here is very poor because I'm a bit awkward, stood on the pallet, and with those bits of wooden things around me, I didn't want to move everything for the camera. So my technique there looks very poor, very cockeyed. I'm just cutting the notch in now. And you'll see there I've got the hearth block resting on two little bits of wood, one to catch the ember and the other one just to balance it. So now we're going for the first try at an ember. Again, a bit awkward, I'm holding it a bit cockeyed because I'm trying to get it in camera view. Just start off slow. String I'm using is not ideal. Getting my excuses in early. String's slipping a bit. It's quite tiring. you have got to push down on that on that bearing block. You can tell if you've got a decent ember because it'll keep smoking. And you can actually, you've got plenty of time now, and that is smoking, and I thought I'd done it. First go I thought I'd done it. So I'm just letting it get established. I'm just putting a bit of the sawdust on now. And I thought I could transfer it into all those shavings and those shavings would catch. But I was wrong. Bit of patience. Ideally, if you've got some char cloth with you, you would have put some char cloth in them shavings and dropped it on the char cloth. So that's the importance of one fire preparing for the next fire. So it's looking good at this point, but it just doesn't catch them shavings. So I ran out of time, I had to go out. So now it's Saturday, and you'll see I've replaced the string as well. And I've just taken off the glaze off the spindle, and you can see I've cut a second divot, so I'm going with a fresh divot on the block, although I burned it in, of course. And you can hear that squeaking, and that's probably it shouldering out on the bearing block. I haven't cut it sharp enough. You can see I'm at quite a wobbly angle there. I'm trying to save all them embers, or all that fine material that I've created. And it's slightly out of focus as well because I had it on manual focus, not automatic. Now I've put some tissue paper in now with those curls of wood that I'd shaved off. So I've used a bit of tissue paper as my bird's nest. I didn't want to have to do it again. So I'm tilting the stove up there, not for the sake of the camera, but for the sake of being able to drop those embers where I want them and keep them as much intact as I can. So I decided to play it safe and get a bit more tissue paper out. And there we go. All that for a cup of coffee. Right, so that's it then. My Fire It Up Friday concluded on a Saturday. First time round I did actually get the ember made, but I failed to make a suitable bird's nest to put it in. So today, on the second time round, I used some paper handkerchief and the shavings that I was relying on Friday. But it is good. It's something I've revisited that I've failed in the past, and that is to make a complete bow drill set out of a pallet, from the bow, the hearth block, the spindle and the bearing block, all out of just two lats of the pallet. And this is Poplar. Poplar and Willow are very similar, but the best bow drill material we've got here around my local area is ivy, but this is quite suitable. So that's my bow drill with a pallet and my Fire It Up Friday on a Saturday. So I've got no idea what the next video is going to be about, so it's all a mystery. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in a week or so.